Hey, it's Eben. Right here in this video, I share some of my best product marketing strategies. For more advice and tips to help you in business, make sure to click the link you see in this video or go to ebenpagan.com.
How do you create a system that makes money? Okay, a system. Because, in the big scheme, what most of us want is not just something where I have to go and do some work, and then I create some value, and then I get some money, and then I got to do the work again, and then I got to create the value, and then I've got to make the money. Because these are very cyclical, up and down, not predictable streams of money. Most of us want something that's a little bit more stable. So if you want to create a system that makes you money, then you must create a system that creates value. Right? We just talked about value first, then money, and the formula looks something like this. System creates value, creates money. System, then value, then money. Creating systems that create value. This is where the financially independent business owners live and breathe. So again, I've been studying this area of creating value and making money and building successful business for a lot of years. And I've been trying to ask the big questions like, how do I simplify this thing all the way down so that I can really create business ideas that have a very high probability of succeeding. Most businesses fail. Most business ideas don't work out. Most of the people that go into business don't make money. How do you think about this in a simple way so that you're not just throwing a bunch of things against the wall and seeing what sticks? Well, in this case, I think that if you just kind of tattoo this little formula across your brain, right, that you can't make money directly, you need to create value, right, and then that will turn into money. And in order to create value, you need to look for areas where there's pain and urgency or want and desire, okay, a high emotional need, and then solve it with a product or service, and then do marketing and selling to market and sell that product, right? That's what creates the value. And then once you're doing that, then you can create some money. But then if you really want to create something that becomes an asset, something that's a system that makes money, then you need to create a system that creates the value that makes the money. And again, after studying a lot of successful business owners, I've realized that whether they know it or not, and many of them don't know it, this is what they're doing. Michael Gerber, who wrote a great book called The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth, what he discovered is that most of the people that are starting businesses are not entrepreneurs. Okay, they're not the big picture thinker entrepreneur type, that they're actually what he calls technicians. They're people that know how to do the work, and they say, I think I'm going to start my own business doing the work. So a poodle clipper opens a poodle clipping business, and the person that knows how to bake cakes and pies opens a business where they bake cakes and pies. And what they wind up getting is not a business system that creates value and throws off money. What they wind up getting is a job. Okay, instead of working for someone else, they work for themselves. So this might be an improvement, but it's still not a system. And the great insight that Michael Gerber had was to go to work on your business, not just in your business. Right? So we're now going up 3 levels here. Right? Instead of just trying to buy a lottery ticket and get money, which never works and just gives a lot of money to the government or the state. And we don't just want to create value. Okay? We don't just want to stop there. We want to go all the way to creating a system that creates value. So we want to look for an opportunity where there's pain and urgency or a real drive and a passion where we can create a product or service that can help solve it. And then once we've found it and we've identified it and we've tested it, then we want to build a system that creates that value so that we are no longer doing it. Now here are some interesting money-making business systems that I've observed to kind of give you the idea here of what we're talking about. So the first one is a business like McDonald's or Starbucks. These are brilliant because one of them offers fast food, and the statistics are that something like 1 in 5 meals that are eaten by adults are eaten inside of a car in the Western world here where I'm doing this program. Right? So McDonald's is a great idea because it's fast, cheap food. And if 1 in 5 meals are being eaten in a car, right, you know that hunger creates hunger pains. Right? It's one of those things that just comes up multiple times a day, and you got to have it. Right? Great business idea. And Starbucks, which I think they have an amazing business model, right? They're probably the most successful drug dealers in the history of man. And I say drugs kind of in quotes, but I personally think that caffeine is just as much of a drug as nicotine or alcohol or any of the illegal drugs. It has a very powerful effect, and as most of us who have either had caffeine or drink it on a regular basis know, it has an effect. Okay, so starting a business that people go to for their kind of daily fix tends to be a really good business model. Now, I also tend to think that Starbucks has great ethics and values and so forth, and they do a lot more than just offer caffeine. Their product is excellent, and if you've ever read Howard Schultz's book, Pour Your Heart Into It, which I recommend, it's a great business great set of business lessons. You'll see that they care, but it's a good money-making idea. Great way of creating value. Find something that people do every day because they're essentially addicted to it. Another business idea. A few years ago, I was reading, I think it was in Fortune magazine, I was reading, by the way, let me just say something here. I personally don't think that it's probably going to be that rewarding if you go into a business like selling fast food or selling drugs, legal or not, because in the long run, most things like that I don't think are really that fulfilling. All right, but I think that they're good to look at as case studies because they help you understand how the human animal works and how businesses that make a lot of money with the human animal work. But stay away from fast food and stay away from drugs. Just in general, I don't think that they're creating the most health in the world. Okay, next, I was reading, I think it was Fortune magazine a few years ago. It's probably more than a few years ago now that I think about it. But anyway, it was talking about this guy in there who was a billionaire, someone I had never heard of. And he had built his company that was this billion-dollar company. And what he did was he set up call centers and went and took all of the customer complaint calls from big Fortune 500 companies. He took their customer complaint calls. So he called up all the biggest corporations in the world and he said, hey, let me have all your complaints. And what did they say? Great. Why? Because customer complaints are the biggest hassle to a business, right? In a lot of ways. Right? The last thing that you want to do is be dealing with customer complaints. It's not something that's easy to deal with, etc. And he built himself a $1 billion empire by just saying, where could the value be created for businesses? And he came up with one of the best ideas I'd ever heard that I never would have thought of because it was just too obvious, and that was taking customer complaint calls. Another interesting money-making business system is virus software. Right? I just read an article about McAfee, the guy that started the company, and he made himself something like $100 million by creating a piece of antivirus software. Why is antivirus software so valuable? Because when you get a virus, you're screwed, and you've got to get rid of it. Okay, and there are many companies that make a lot of money with anywhere from little homemade tools to take adware and spyware off your computer to big industrial strength tools that work across computer networks inside of offices. It's also a nice system, okay, that you can create because it's a piece of software. And all you got to do is keep updating the piece of software. Another example are some of my businesses. Okay, businesses like Altitude, the Guru Mastermind, Wake Up Productive, and other trainings like the one you're going through right now. I think these are great business money-making systems because it's a product that I create, I record, and then in the future, many other people can go through the product, and I don't have to be there delivering it. And what's amazing about the internet that has really just allowed us to become very scalable in the last 5 or 10 years is that we can put a digital book or a digital audio program or a digital video online, and we can deliver it for pennies, and we can charge literally whatever it's worth. Okay, so if I'm selling a business training that is teaching you how to grow your business and make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, it's not unreasonable for me to charge $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 or more for a business training that will teach you how to do that particular thing. I think information products and personal coaching are some of the biggest opportunities here in the modern day in business, just because you can set up systems that allow you to make money.